Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living Morristown. My name is Anna Nierenberg, and I'm an attendee here. I'm standing in for Reverend Frankie Timmers, who is on a well-deserved vacation. Nice to see all of you here in person, and welcome to all of you online, whether now or in the future. We're happy to have you. If you are online, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Meetup, and YouTube. Please share with your friends and family. There's lots of enlightening and inspirational things on this, not just our celebrations, but different posts. We do a namaste practice here. And if you're new, I don't think anybody is new today, but there's a bookshelf in the back and you get a free book. So if you ever come here in person, you get to get a free book, which is wonderful. So namaste is the Sanskrit word for the divinity in me blesses the divinity in you. So put your hands in front of your heart and we're going to bow to each other. Namaste. 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 Wonderful. Today, we're blessed to have a special speaker, John Heron, who is a practitioner of the Center for Spiritual Living in Princeton, and his topic is "My Cup Runneth Over." So thank you so much.
Okay, first thing, we were talking about bridges. So today we're going to talk about more bridges, building bridges. It's Easter, and I'll just let you know, I grew up in a Jewish family, so we certainly didn't celebrate Easter. We celebrated Passover, and I was a Hindu monk for many years, so we didn't really celebrate Easter there either. I've done many different spiritual practices. So for me, like everything else in this teaching, it's an opportunity to look at what does this mean to me, right? What is this in my life? So when Reverend Frankie asked me to be here and give the Easter talk, first of all, I'll say thank you because I just love coming here. This is such a welcoming place. People are so welcoming and really involved in the teaching, right? And what's the teaching? The teaching is simply how do we take our lives, how do we be lifted up in our consciousness to know that there's more than just, a bulletin board and this and that and what they're saying in the newspaper, terrible things that may be happening in the world. There's more, there's a deeper truth. And we all want to experience it, and I suppose that's why we're here. I know that's why I'm here. So I want to start off, I found this quote which I really liked. It's by Gene Houston, who's a wonderful writer on spiritual things. What would you be like if you started today to make the most of the rest of your life? Let's start from there. Think about that. What would you be like if you started today to make the most of the rest of your life if you turned a corner and awoke? Right? Because this is not a teaching about Sunday mornings. This is a teaching about our lives. Right? So it's interesting to me at this point in my life to think about the story of Jesus and the Easter story and all of that kind of stuff. As I said, coming from a Jewish background, this is not something I grew up with. And I look at it now and I think, first of all, I love this teaching, The Science of Mind. It really has helped me and changed my life in so many ways. And it's opened up for me something that was already a part of my life, but in a deeper way, mystical teachings, whatever, Christianity, Buddhism, Islam, almost every teaching has a mystical side, and that is the direct experience of these things that we're talking about, right? that there is a source. Whether you call it God or whether you call it, whatever you call it, doesn't matter, right? There is a source, and that source is love, and that source is life, right? And so Easter, the story, such a wonderful story about life triumphing, right? If you know the teachings of Judge Thomas Troward, he talks about the 7 qualities of God. The very first one is life. God is life, or life is God, or whatever word you want to use. So this life is what is. It is around us all the time, and this is a teaching of life. When I, if I get up in the morning and I'm depressed, or I'm not feeling so well, or something happens that sort of throws me off and all that stuff, I always come back to, this is a teaching of life, not of the lack of life, right? I think the one of the aspects of Good Friday to Easter, right? So whether it actually physically happened in the world or not, this person who expressed such deep love in his life was nailed up onto a cross. Okay, there's that piece of the story, but the proof of his life is the triumph of life, the presence of life. As a mythological story, what a wonderful symbol it is that takes us right into what we teach here, which is life is what exists. And that life is perfect, it's whole, it's complete, it's life, right? We tend to, I know that probably like me, I tend to make categories in my life, right? This is holy, and this is not, but I like to do that, right? And I've found that in my practice, I'm trying to learn how to cut that thing, that separation that I put up between this is holy and this is not, but I like it, right? Because if God, truth, whatever you want to call it, is life, then it's all of life. It's everything, right? And all that we're asked to do, in a sense, in this teaching is to have that consciousness, to build the consciousness that we are living, we are that which is. And all that's true of that is true of every single one of us. Every single one of us. Right? And so, what I want to do today, I want to read you some things. Joseph Campbell, who probably many of you are familiar with his work, he studied mythology and talked about its application to our lives. I'm going to read some of that. I'm going to talk about a spiritual practice that I've been doing for years based on some of Joseph Campbell's work. And I have a really wonderful story from Runneth Fox to tell you, and we'll do a little meditation. So I'm going to start with the spiritual mind treatment, which you probably all know is an affirmative prayer. So this word is for each one participating in this service here at CSL Morristown. And each one who might wish that they were participating in this service, and anyone online watching this. So this is a truth that it is life which is existent. In all things, there is no place where this life is not. There is only this life, and this life is perfect. It is whole. It is complete. It is that now. It is that here, wherever your now and here is. And so this is what is present in this service here at CSL Morristown. This life, filled with light, filled with joy, filled with peace. And I declare that each one that participates in this service is now filled with joy, is now knowing a deeper truth and living a deeper truth. And this deeper truth is the life of each one. The glorious individuality of each one is expressing this infinite life. That is what is present here. I know this is true. This service is a success in every possible way, on every plane of consciousness. I'm so grateful to know this. I release this to the law. It is done, and so it is.
And so it is.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Joseph Campbell. He was a very spiritually focused man. His job was, he studied mythology, and he wrote all these wonderful books about mythology. If you go on YouTube, you'll see lots of videos of him. He was on television in those days, I think in the 60s. And he thought a lot and wrote a lot about how mythology helps us to understand the world. And so this is one thing I found that he said that I really liked. And that is, the experience of eternity right here and now is the function of life. Right? Our whole purpose is to experience eternity. It's why we're here. Eternity isn't some later time. Eternity isn't even a long time. Eternity has nothing to do with time. Eternity is that dimension of here and now that all thinking in temporal terms cuts off. The experience of eternity right here and now in all things, whether thought of as good or as evil. Heaven is not the place to have the experience. Here is the place to have the experience. Right here, right now. When you realize that eternity is right here now, that it is within your possibility to experience the eternity of your own truth and being, then you grasp the following. That which you are was never born and will never die. So we look at the celebration of Easter, right, as it may be celebrated in different Christian religions and practices and all that kind of stuff. And everybody says it's this or it's that or this. This is the clearest statement to me. That which you are was never born and will never die. So here we are, and we get up in the morning, and this aches, and gotta go to the bathroom, and I'm really hungry, and what do I want to have for breakfast? But that which I am was never born and will never die. How do we put those two together? How do we find this truth? And I'm supposing that if you're here, because I see lots of familiar faces that haven't been here before, that all of us have a sense, a belief, that this is probably true. And maybe for some of us, it's more than probably true. We've gotten an inkling of what this is all about, that there is a deeper truth. So how do we get there? How do we erase that separation between this is holy and this is fun, but not so holy? Right? How do we make our lives? I bet if we stopped and I asked each one of us in the room, all of us have done some pretty wonderful things in our lives, right? And are still doing those wonderful things. I know I am. I know that I do lots of things, and I'm learning how to hold the consciousness that that presence, that life, is right there, right now. Whether I'm talking to other people, I've said this before, I'm involved in theater. I happen to be directing a show right now in East Brunswick. And I sit there with the actors and I think, I get to be in a room with all this creativity. That creativity is God to me. I am learning how to hold that consciousness, to know that I want to learn to live a deeper spiritual life. I am. It's just a matter of consciousness. Again and again, building up our consciousness that we are that thing that we're looking for, right? That's the thing that Ernest Holmes said. What we're looking for is what we're looking with and looking at. So, I wanted to talk a little bit, when Reverend Frankie asked me to do this talk, I thought, well, this is something I've never really talked about. It's a practice that I've been doing for a lot of years, and I thought it might be some help, some support to somebody other than myself, right? So Reverend Heron, who is our minister in CSL Princeton, where I am a practitioner, she taught a class in Joseph Campbell's teachings. And there was a section on the Holy Grail. Not Monty Python's Holy Grail. And for some, you know how sometimes you read something or you hear something and a spark goes off? It's like you see something and it just grabbed me. This concept of the Holy Grail. This concept of Jesus presenting perfect sense of mythology, right? Presenting a vessel with the wine in it, and the wine being life itself. The wine being life itself. And the wine, of course, takes the form of whatever the vessel was. Suppose that, scholars have looked at what was the Holy Grail. Well, it was either a cup or a bowl or some kind of dish or something like that. Nobody really knows. But think of that concept. Think that each of us is the Holy Grail. Right? We are a vessel that holds life, and the form that it takes is us. In me, the form it takes is, okay, I direct theater, I do this, I do that. This is God expressing as directing theater and doing this and doing that. What's the form in you, right? And so my practice for a long time has been, I am the Holy Grail. And I think of that as both, I am open to be filled up with that divine presence, and also, I hold that divine presence and it's available to everyone in the world. So that's an affirmation I say a lot. I am the Holy Grail. I think of myself. What an incredible blessing that is for each of us to think like that. That I use the word God, right? When I first came to the center, I couldn't stand that word, but I learned it, right? What a blessing to think that God wants. God wants to experience itself, and the way that God does that is through us, through the form that we take, through everything that we do throughout our days. I am the Holy Grail, right? The way that I use this teaching is sometimes just as an affirmation. Sometimes it's just like my brain is someplace else. I start doing it. I am the Holy Grail. Another thing that I do, I find very helpful. I carry a little pad or a tablet or an iPad or whatever. And sometimes when I'm watching television and it's something that doesn't really require my total attention, I'll just start writing, I am the Holy Grail. And what I find is, as a practice for me, my mind just quiets down. And I pay attention to how it looks. I am the Holy Grail. Because if I wake up in the middle of the night, before my mind starts going, and you know what happens when you wake up in the middle of the night, right? Mind going everywhere, all the unsolved problems. I immediately start picturing, like in front of me is this pad, and I'm writing, I am the Holy Grail. And I always fall back to sleep, right? And that, by the way, is you probably know this. If you wake up in the middle of the night or you're in a different situation and you catch your mind going, start as soon as you can to go in a direction, something that lifts you up, something that pulls you into a deeper truth about who you are. Do it as quickly as you can. It's a habit, right? Because I've been doing this for a long time. It's a habit now. I wake up in the middle of the night and I catch my mind. I am the Holy Grail, right? And I really find it quiets my mind and I fall back to sleep. It's a great thing. There's another aspect of this affirmation, I am the Holy Grail. In fact, I was listening to the radio and somebody used the term in this way. It was a scientist talking about gene research, and she said, yeah, like this is the Holy Grail of gene research. So when I say I am the Holy Grail is the thing that we are looking for. The highest possible, that's the way it's become used in our language, right? We want, if you're a musician, you want the Holy Grail of songs. Oh my God, this is perfect. Whatever, right? So that's a practice that you may want to try. I am the Holy Grail. And for me, I think about it. I let my heart open to it. I let whatever other facilities I have open to it, which is really important when I find when doing affirmations. I don't do it just from here, because sometimes I can get very heavy, right? So I try to make sure that I'm including my heart and opening my heart to it. So that's the Holy Grail practice. I hope that has some value for some of you. And certainly directly involved with this holiday season, right? The Holy Grail was Good Friday, Passover Seder, and here we are. So one of the things that has very affected me in the past couple of years is Emmett Fox was a New Thought writer in the early to mid 20th century, and some of his writings are just really wonderful. And he looked at these stories, Bible stories, the story of the crucifixion and the resurrection, and all these kinds of things. And he said everything in the Bible is a parable. Everything. It's a story that has a deeper layer meant for us as we read these stories to really allow ourselves to be present with maybe a deeper truth that's in these things. And in his book, The Mental Equivalent, he told this really wonderful story. So what I would like to do is I'm going to tell you this story, and then we're going to do a little meditation from the Science of Mind textbook. So that's what we're going to be doing from here. So here's this story that's in the Mental Equivalent. There was a man who lived in this village. This was in medieval times, and he was a blacksmith, and he did his work, and he lived with his family and all this kind of stuff. Fairly young guy. And one day, he was delivering something that he had made to this very rich gentleman in the town. And the rich gentleman was not happy with the result. And so he reported him to the baron. And the Baron sent the troops, and they arrested this man and threw him in the dungeon. They grabbed him, they walked him into the castle, and down long flights of stairs and into a cell in the lowest level of the castle. Threw him in there, shut the door with a loud clink, took the key, locked it, and went away. And he started shouting, "Why am I here? I don't even know what's wrong. I don't know why I'm being arrested," and all this kind of stuff. Nothing. And every day, a guard, very tall, big guy, dressed with a spear and all this stuff, would come down with a pitcher of water and a loaf of bread and shove it in to the cell and go away. Many years passed, and this man was in the cell. He didn't know why he was in the cell. He didn't know what was going to happen to him, whether he was going to die in the cell. And finally, he got to the place where he said, "I can't do this anymore." And so he made a plan that the next morning, when that guard came down with the water and the bread, he was going to rush the guard. The guard, who was a huge guy, would take his spear and kill him. That was because he just couldn't bear being in there. So in preparation for this, to make sure he had it all right, he went over to the door just to see how does it open and all that stuff, and he put his hand on the lock portion, and the door opened.
Oh my God.
And he closed it again, and he looked at it, and it opened, and he looked, well, it looked like it had never been locked. And he slowly opened the door, but it was really old, so it was creaking and all this kind of stuff, and there were guards out there, and they paid no attention. Now, he didn't know quite what to do, so he closed the door again, he went back inside, and he said, okay, so the door's open. What do I do? He went back and tried it again. Yup, the door opens, and he walked out of the cell. Now, this has been years he had been in the cell. He walked out of the cell, and he stopped him. And there was a long flight of stairs, and he walked up the stairs. And at the top of the stairs, there was another guard. And he thought, for sure, this guy's going to just push me back down the stairs. He walked right past him, and nobody did anything. And he saw that he was in the main hall of the castle, and he saw there was a big door, and he went to the front door, and he thought that they're going to just surround me and kill me now. Nobody stopped him. He opened the front door, he walked out, and there was an open courtyard, and around the castle was a moat, and there was a drawbridge, and he thought, I don't know what's going to happen now. Maybe they're doing this on purpose. They're letting me come out here, and they're going to kill me. And of course, he got to the drawbridge, and the drawbridge happened to be down, and there was a guy in the tower watching, and he just walked across the bridge, and nobody stopped him. And went home. And there was his family, and they were, of course, overjoyed to see him. And they asked him, "What happened?
Oh my God.
How'd you get out?" And he said, "I don't know. The door was open all these years, I guess. I just never tried." And I think it's such a wonderful story, right? This is the teaching of the science of mind. It's not that we have to achieve anything. We're already there. It's just that we don't agree that we're already there. We don't think we're already there, right? So these practices like doing I am the Holy Grail, or whatever practices you do, what's their purpose? Their purpose is to change our consciousness so that we know that we are free, and that we are free now. And we get to live this life, as you notice, I'm not 20 years old, right? As many of us are not, right? How long do you think we have to live before we get the joy that we deserve? At what point are we going to decide, you know what, I've been doing that. The stuff that's fun, but I think it's wrong. I've been doing that for a long time, thinking that it's wrong. That's separate from this. At what point are we going to just say, this is it, and it is joy, and it is life, and it is all of those things that we've heard about for all these years, and it's time for me to live that, right? So from that point, I thought, let's do a little meditation that fits right into what we're talking about. So, relax in your chair, whatever's comfortable for you. I know that Reverend Frankie probably does her meditations in a certain way. As far as I'm concerned, whatever is comfortable for you right here, right now. Take a nice deep breath. And if you like, allow your eyes to close. So this meditation is written by Ernest Holmes from the Science of Mind textbook. I'm going to go slowly with it. Just let the words get absorbed by you. Open your heart. Open your mind. You are the child of all good. You are born of eternal day. There is no evening of the soul, for it shall live forever. It is deathless and perfect, complete, and one with the everlasting. No thought of tomorrow can disturb the calm of him who knows that life is one eternal day. No fear can enter where love reigns, and reason keeps faith with hope. The thoughts of the tomorrows and the yesterdays are swallowed up in the great realization of the perfect here and the complete now. Today, I completely accept my wholeness. And so in this quiet, I'm going to do a spiritual mind treatment. There is only one. Call it God, call it the universe. It is one. And in that one, there is no separation. That one is life. It is love, the infinite expression of life. Always new, always expanding. And since it is infinite, it is each one listening to this treatment. And so I know that everyone is that infinite life, that infinite love, that infinite expansion of God. And since that's so, I know that each one is experiencing joy, love, peace, power, light. All that is true of God is true of everyone listening to this treatment. And so these words are the spark that lights the fire in everyone's heart. And each one is alive with a deeper truth with greater life, with greater love, with greater joy. And this joy enters into the hearts and minds of each one and expresses itself as each one in the life of each one, and so that each one is now knowing that they are the one truth of the universe, and each one is a blessing to themselves, to the world around them, to those loved ones in their lives. Each one is finding, and each one has found that which is true for them, and that each one is living that life. A life of fullness, a life of joy. It is present, it is here, it is now. I am so grateful for this truth. I release it to the law. It is done, here and now, and so it is.
So it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. That was wonderful. I felt like I was sort of transported to these
Yes.
other realms. Thank you so much. Well, thank you all for being here, and thank you for being here online. Just would like to say that one of the things that sustains our community is your generosity. So we just ask you to be as generous as you can to the best of your ability. And you can do cash, check, credit card, text to give. My favorite is PayPal, so it's automatic now. So just a way to show your appreciation, and you know, just share and spread the word. Thank you all so much, and have a wonderful day. This is a beautiful day.